time. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
That is way better, way better, way better, way better. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I know that most of you are patients, and you probably already know that in our office, everything we do is designed to improve the health of our community. That is the purpose of us being here tonight as well. Whether it's through chiropractic care, whether it's through nutrition or stretching and exercising, our goal is to make sure that you live the best life you can by making sure that you're as healthy as you can, because we know that when you're healthier, you need less intervention. Does everybody agree with that? Right?
Yes.
And so what I want to do is I want to start out with the premise of chiropractic in this office. And so a premise, for those of you who have never really thought about what a premise is a proposition supporting or helping support a conclusion. So you make a couple of statements that are true, that everybody knows are true, and then from that you can deduct something from it. So for example, if I tell you all swans are white, and Susan is a swan, what can you deduct from that? Susan is white, right? That's exactly what you can deduct from that. Well, chiropractic, you can have some propositions too. Like the body is self-healing, self-regulating. If you cut yourself, it heals. If you break a bone, you can put a cast on. The cast doesn't heal you though, right? The cast protects it and keeps it in alignment. But the body is self-healing. The bone heals on the inside by itself. Self-regulating. If it's hot, I sweat. If it's cold, I shiver, right? It's regulating to the temperature. So your body is self-healing and self-regulating. The nervous system controls and coordinates the functions of the body. It is your brain that's literally telling everything how to work. Do you guys agree with that? Yep. And the way it does that is that it produces electrical messages. Those messages travel across your nerves to your organs to tell them how to work. So the only way you can move a muscle is that if your brain produces a message, it goes to the muscle, then the muscle contracts. If the message never gets to the muscle or the nerve is damaged, the muscle can't contract again. So it's the nervous system that controls and coordinates the functions of the body. Subluxations interfere with the nervous system. So if you've been a patient, you know that if your spine misaligns and it pinches that nerve can't carry the messages the way it's supposed to. So it's going to interfere with the subluxation is going to interfere with the nervous system, and then from that, the adjustments reduce the subluxation, remove the nerve interference, and you're healthier. Come on in. Just find a seat right up here, right up here.
There's one right here, and there's one in the front. Priscilla, go to the front with her, and then
Come on in. Thank you. There's chair.
you can sit in the front.
Okay, you got it. Come on up front.
Okay,
there you go. So those are some of the propositions that come up with the premise of chiropractic. And we believe that the families that are getting adjusted are healthier and safer than those that are not getting adjusted. And so when I say that they're healthier and safer. Why? If you're getting adjusted, we're removing the nerve interference. If we're removing the nerve interference, your body's working better. If your body's working better, it can self-regulate and control better, right? So that's the premise of chiropractic, is that we believe that the families getting adjusted are healthier and safer. But how are they safer? Well, if you're getting adjusted and you're healthier, you need less intervention. So if you're getting adjusted and you're healthier, you don't need as many medications. If you're getting adjusted and you're healthier, you don't show up in emergency rooms as often. If you're getting adjusted and you're healthier, you have less surgeries, right? That's also true with other areas of health though. That's true with nutrition. If you're eating better, you're literally safer and healthier than those that aren't eating better. Does that make sense? Because if I have the right nutrition in my body's replacing itself and repairing itself with healthier tissues. But if I have poor nutrition in my body, I'm not replacing it with its healthy cells. Now I'm moving away from health, and now I'm increasing my risk. And there's nobody that knows that better than our speaker tonight. Because our speaker tonight, Kellie, is an ICU surgical center nurse. She's not just some random person that knows a little bit about nutrition. She literally sees the bad side of people not taking care of themselves, right? But she's also a holistic nutritionist, got a certified degree. And then she has a business called A Better Path to Wellness. And it's really about what do we need to fuel our body with and feed our body with so that we can be as healthy as possible, so that not only are we healthier, we're safer, right? So with a big Minding Your Family Chiropractic round of applause, I want you to welcome Kellie Hamilton.
Thank you guys so much, and thank you for that lovely introduction, Dr. So thank you guys guys. What a wonderful turnout on a Monday evening. I'm flattered, and show stock to all of you. You guys really want those points for the prizes out there, I think. I eyed them myself coming in, so I can see why you're all, here and very eager. But yeah, so my name is Kelly. I own A Better Path to Wellness. And I think the reason why Dr. Dan and I get along so well is because the whole preface of why I went into nursing and why I started a nutrition business is to help people, right? That's why a lot of people in healthcare go into healthcare. One thing I learned very early on, I've dabbled in medical, surgical, nursing. I was a hospice nurse part-time. And then I shifted into the ICU. And my ICU is primarily surgical ICU, but we do see a lot of medical overflow. Just came out of a pandemic a few years ago. That was pretty much all NICU overflow. So you can imagine what I was seeing there. And the thing that stuck out to me the most was that we do a terrible job of preventative health in this country. Terrible, right? Everything is reactive, not proactive. So I really wanted to offer something to people that, was going to help them before I'm seeing you in the bed of my surgical ICU. So that led me down a spiral into functional nutrition, and I became obsessed, reading all the books and research I could get my hands on, and I said, I'm gonna be the change, right? And I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna help coach people through it, because if I could work it into my busy lifestyle as a nurse, working night shift in an ICU, then anybody could do it. And what I like to do is meet people where they're at. I could stand up here and talk to you guys for 45 minutes about all the things that you should do and all the guidelines, and we're gonna talk about a few of those things. There's one thing I want you to remember when you leave here is, even if you leave here and you just put one thing I teach you tonight into practice, you're already better than when you left, okay? And it's gonna be that easy. You just gotta meet you where you're at. I'm not asking for a life-changing intervention or an epiphany to happen. I'm just asking you to put one thing you learn here today into practice as early as tomorrow and watch the positive change happen, okay? So, what we're gonna talk about today, you guys have a handout in front of you. You can take notes on it, you can reference it. I'm gonna kind of go over a lot of what's on there and then a few things that aren't on there. You guys are getting a crash course today on one thing that I do with my private one-on-one clients. So I see clients one-on-one, I do group coaching, I put on workshops. I actually have a residency at the Greendale YMCA where I put on a community health seminar series with a colleague of mine who's 80 years old. He's a retired biochemist. He's the host of Wellness Wave Radio. His name is Phil George. And we really wanted to make community health and wellness affordable for people that couldn't afford to work with somebody one-on-one. So we offer that. I also have spoken for Haywood Hospital. I love corporate wellness, to target big people. So I really like to work with people. My thing is, when I work with one-on-one clients, I like to start with my 3 pillars. And that's what you guys are going to learn today. We're going to talk about protein, we're going to talk about fiber, and we're going to talk about calories, right? The fuel that you need to keep going. Here's my preface for why I do that. If you are eating the right amount and the right kind of these 3 things, it's very hard to eat a lot of junk, out of balance, and a lot of the things you don't need. Okay, maybe you've worked with a personal trainer in the past, or like a registered dietitian, or somebody who's got you counting carbs and fats and calories and protein and sugar, and it's like a full-time job. I've had people say that to me. They said, this felt like a full-time job to track my food for 7 days, and I never want to open a calorie counting app ever again. And I can relate, because it's a lot to do all that, okay? So I kind of created my own pillar system to help my one-on-one clients, and again, people that really want to lose weight that see me, or people that have a lot of GI issues, or a lot of older people that their muscle is wasting. It's something that we're more than well aware of now. After the age of 35, it is harder to build lean muscle. It's not impossible. We've all seen the viral videos of, the women's in their spec, it's like 65, 70, and she decides to train for a marathon or do her first bodybuilding competition. She looks fantastic, and they do it, right? Again, probably a full-time job, and she's retired, and that's all she does, and that's great. But it's very hard to do that. It's not impossible. But if you're sitting here and you're a little bit on the younger side, it's important we start and preserve now. And if you're sitting here and you're a little bit on the older side, it's not too late, and we can do it. And I'm going to show you how with some of the macro kind of nutrition. One other reason I like to talk about how much protein we really need is because I also feel like there's a lot of a lot of information out there on the web, right? There's a lot of fad diets, there's a lot of internet advice, you don't know who's credentialed, you really don't know what to believe out there. So again, I take from, I'm an evidence-based holistic nutritionist, so I read the latest research, I go over the guidelines, I deep dive and weed all that stuff out for you so you don't have to, okay? And it is not lost on me that in longevity wellness, okay, some of you might have heard that kind of buzzword. There's a lot of stuff on longevity wellness right now and healthy aging. Peter Attia's book, Outlive, Casey Means, Good Energy, a lot of these New York Times bestsellers, they all talk about longevity. What does that mean, right? We have your lifespan, which is how long you live, right? So if you are born 0 and you live to be 90 years old, that's your lifespan, right? But maybe you died at 90, but the last 12 years of your life, you had dementia, and you were in a nursing home, or God forbid you had a stroke, and maybe you had a tracheostomy and a PEG, and you didn't really live your health span, right? Which is the amount of time you spent healthy in your life doing the things that you want to do. So, why is protein so important? Protein feeds your muscles. Your muscles are your longevity organ. We have this misconception in the body that our brain is just, our thinking organ, and our gut is just our digestive organ. It's not, it's a neuroendocrine organ. Our muscles are just a skeletal muscle organ. It's not. So it's actually a neuroendocrine organ as well. It helps with blood sugar, it helps with stability, it helps with strength, and it is directly correlated to how long you're gonna live. Now, has anybody been anywhere and done like the grip strength test, right? And what did they tell you when you did that? Did they tell you why you were doing it? That it's directly related to how long you're gonna live? Usually I'll bring I have a little, it's called a Sway. You can buy them. It hooks right up to your smartphone and you can test your grip strength on it. Now this is like a fun, I take it to table events, and I have a chart that I got off the web, and it will tell you based on your age and sex where you fall, what your grip strength would be. It's hysterical. I take it to gyms, and I have bodybuilders that'll do it like on the right side of their body, and they squeeze it as hard as they can, and they make a face, and they're like, oh, and then they do it on the left side, and it's like 20 points less. And I'm like, well, of course, because you're dominant, right? And then that now becomes a game, and they want to do it. They're less fixated on the fact that, this is how long you're going to live. Maybe we should try and improve that. But that's something that you guys can know, because you can improve your grip strength at home. When you go to events and they give out stress balls, or even the old little bodybuild, I forgot what it's called, the little, somebody in here must know what it's called. There's a couple of them, what's the grip squeezy, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That thing, the old, you see the guys in the gym doing their forearms, right? So that's another one. So you can do these things, right? Wall push-ups to kind of strengthen. So because Asian cultures, what do? They eat on the ground a lot, right? They're getting down on the ground, up off the ground. That's another thing. If you cannot safely and easily get down on the ground and get up off the ground without help, that's another direct correlation to how long and how healthy of a life you're going to live. So I tell you this because muscles are going to help get you there and do those things. So what do we need to be fueling our muscles? You have a little chart in front of you, and I actually had to update this from the last time I gave this talk, because in the beginning of this past year, our guidelines changed. So the guidelines are now 1.2 to 1.6 gram per kilogram of body weight. So if you're sitting here and you're like, the metric system's so hard, right? Because we live in America and we don't use a metric, right? So you take your weight and you divide it by 2.2, right? You can do it on a calculator or just divide it by 2 round numbers. And then you multiply it somewhere on this scale. And that will tell you as an average of how much protein you're supposed to eat. Now, there's a couple caveats to this. If you are very active, you need to be on the higher end of the scale, or even higher. If you have a chronic illness, or you are currently ill or going through something, you need to be on the higher end and maybe even eat higher than this scale. And people are always shocked when I say that people over the age of generally 70 need to be eating more protein than the average bodybuilder is eating. We just don't do a good job of educating the older population of how much protein they really need, because they are wasting their kind of muscles and when they don't eat enough protein faster than the average population. So this is a good place to start, but just know that, depending on the lifestyle you live, you might be a little bit higher than this scale, okay? Now, people ask me all the time, they're like, okay, well now I kind of know, so say you do the math out and you need 90 grams of protein on average a day. And you're like, I wonder how much I'm eating. So maybe you track it for 1 or 2 days and you look and you're like, oh, I'm eating 60 grams of protein, I have no idea, right? Or maybe you need 150 grams and you're like, I'm only eating 100 grams, how do I get up there? So people often ask me, what are some tips and ideas that you have and that you give to your clients to reach this? Now, there are a bunch of different forms of protein, right? We have our animal sources of protein. We think our lean meats and our lean kind of fishes, right? Our fatty fishes. You guys are doing omega-3s this week. That ties in very nicely. You know, your salmon, your mackerel, your herring, sardines, think your bigger, fattier fishes. Also dairy, I get asked a lot. People kind of have this assumption that I'm like a holistic nutritionist. I have a plant-based specialty, that I'm vegan or vegetarian. That's not the case. I really value whole foods, and I think we need to eat more fruits and vegetables and more plant proteins, but they all play a role. If there's one thing you take away too, is that diversity is going to be key here. So the new research says you need about 30, and every time I say this, people look at me like 30 different fruits and vegetables a week is what they're saying to have a diverse kind of gut microbiome. Now, again, I think you could go bankrupt with today's day and age buying 30 different fruits and vegetables. I like to, again, meet you guys where you're at. If you could try each meal to have 2 servings of a fruit or a vegetable, you'll be doing better than the average American population. And that's all I ask of you. And that can be 2 fruits, 2 vegetables, mix and match, whatever you can make work, okay? And as far as, dairy, I like Parmesan cheese. I get asked a lot. It's got more protein than a lot of the average soft cheeses. So they have little snack ones now you can buy. Has anybody seen the Parmesan snacking cheese, the hard cheese? Yeah, it's harder to find than some of the other ones, but you can find it at some stores, and those are great. They're broken down already for you in 0.75 ounces, and they have 7 grams of protein in one little block. Great snack, and you can pair it. I always tell my clients pair it with some fruit for extra bonus points, or some veggies, right? Or I love to make, I actually had one today, I was on the go earlier, I call my poor man's charcuterie. I had, Chomps are having their moment, those grass-fed, grass-finished beef sticks. They're a great snack, they're low carb, they're low calorie, 100 calories, you get 10 grams of protein, and I grabbed that and a cheese stick and I headed out the door, and I had a little on-the-go charcuterie, right? As well as, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, same thing with yogurt now. They're getting very creative. Orkos makes a high-protein yogurt. So the average serving of yogurt used to have 12 to 16 grams. Now you can find some as high as 26 grams. So if you're looking for a great way to kick off, a protein-packed breakfast, that's a way to do it. And then you can add berries to that. You can add nuts and seeds to that. You can really, really beef it up. As far as plant-based sources, we have our lentils, we have our beans, edamame. If you're sitting here, I just did a huge menopause event over the weekend, and you're hot flashing, or you're kind of either in the thick of it, about to go through it, or just went through it, and you're still got some residual symptoms. Whole food forms of soy are fantastic for that, but they also pack a lot of protein. There's a very big misconception that is still out here floating around that we can't eat soy because it's bad for us, it's going to give us cancer. My own husband, when we had first met, when I was doing nutrition, was like, is that going to give me man boobs? Can I eat soy? And, it was, and I went, wow, if my husband's asking me that, I wonder how many other men are thinking that. And it was a lot. I said that in front of a room full of men at a veterans event I did, and they were all like, we were wondering that, So again, if you're sitting here at the end and you have a question, please ask it, because I'm sure somebody else is thinking it. But no, it will not do that, right? So the whole food forms of soy your body knows what to do with those. And when you eat it in foods like edamame, that your body will break it down and put it into the places appropriately. Quinoa is another grain that has a great amount of protein and fiber, which we're going to talk about. Peas, that surprises people. If you're not married to a specific vegetable, but you guys like routine, and you're doing green beans, it might just be as easy as switching to peas a couple times a week, because they're just as tasty, but they pack almost 8 grams of protein in a cup of peas. Nuts and seeds obviously do have a decent amount of protein, vitamin E that we need, omega-3s that we need. They can be calorically dense though, so you have to be careful. Serving sizes are appropriate. We're going to talk about that when we talk about calories, but they're really a great source of protein as well when used in conjunction with other things. And then I love the plant pastas. I do encourage people to experiment with them. If you just go cold turkey and go make chickpea pasta and you've never had it in your life, you might startle your significant other or your family. So I always say, like, add it in, make like a half a box of each, like as a trick. And you know, especially if you have young kids in the household, you can really kind of get the family to get on board with this. But you gotta kind of do it slowly. And then over time, I've had clients who have transformed whole family pasta dinners into either a red lentil or a chickpea pasta. They make edamame pasta. They make a black bean pasta now, which it looks very fancy if you wanted to prepare some kind of meal. Did that for my husband. I thought we were having black squid ink pasta dish with scallops. And I said, no, it's actually black bean pasta. Fucha, right? So these are things, you know, I encourage you when you see them at the store to experiment with, because you might like it and you just don't know you like it because you've never tried it before. I will kind of plug soy milk as well, because somebody might ask me that, and I do get asked about that a lot. You know, it is processed, right? Because all milk is processed. So when we talk about not having a lot of processed foods, but it is in a more simple form. So if you're someone who uses a lot of almond milk or oat milk can be high in sugar. You kind of have to be careful and make sure you read the label. So if you're sitting here and you're pre-diabetic or you're diabetic, again, just be aware of that. You know, it is great if you have a dairy allergy or sensitivity. But I do encourage you to try like organic soy milk. I switched a long time ago. Again, if you're putting something in your coffee or you're doing kind of a milkshake or what have you, you can get 8 more grams of protein in a serving of organic soy milk than you can in almond milk or oat milk. So just know that's an option. Again, not everybody likes it. I don't think it tastes that much different. A few of my clients have tried it and they made the switch and it was easy. It's something I would encourage you to maybe dabble and try a little bit of and see if it's something that could help you out in that long run too. Now, some of you sitting here are like busy working professionals. That when I started my business, that was who I was working with. I was working with first responders in the middle of the pandemic, respiratory therapists that were working, 12-hour shifts. It was very apparent to me that I was trying to coach these people to, use nutrition as self-care and help themselves. They worked really long hours, so it's like, well, all this sounds good, but how do you make it all work? What can I do if I'm busy and on the go? Well, I told you about my meat stick trick, right? And please do not let me see you guys at the gas station buying Slim Jims. You'll give me a stroke, okay? You'll all give me a stroke, and if I see you, I'll be like, I saw you. You knew that wasn't the one, right? So you want grass-fed, grass-finished, and low nitrates and only natural nitrates if you're going to buy something like that. And then I like, I get asked a lot about protein powders, and people will often say to me, well, I feel like I'm cheating, or I really don't want to use that. Now, you have to be careful with the product you buy. So a lot of our products come from overseas, right? And they're cut with the Consumer Reports did this really big study at the end, I think, of 2023. And everyone's buying, I don't want to say it, because I don't want to, the blue bottle with the white lettering on it?
Oh, no.
Right? The very popular one of collagen and protein that's out there. It's not being filmed, so I don't want to get in trouble for trademark or slander, but I tell people that was on that study. They cut it with lead and a bunch of other heavy metals. They sold their company at the very beginning of COVID. It was very hush-hush, as a lot of companies, big corporations that sell do that. So again, that's why sometimes working with a professional that does read this research and knows can be helpful. Because I'll tell my clients, SAFE certified, NSF. There are certain certifications that you can look for to make sure you're getting the best quality product. The other thing too is you want to look for products that don't do it's called greenwashing. They make you think it's a really healthy product, but it's not. So you want to look to make sure there's not a lot of artificial flavors, a lot of extra gums, things like that in there, or a lot of things you can't pronounce, right? So that's kind of my tip for you guys. I have a supplemental pharmacy that I use for clients, and anytime I do talks in the community, I always give you guys access to that. So on the back of my business card, I give everybody 15% off, and I curate a list of supplements on there, and protein and collagen is on there. If that's something you're interested in, you can kind of check that out and see if that's something that you want to utilize. And that's another gift from me to you. I also am a big fan of the Owen shakes. Now, flavor profile, not everybody loves them. I find either people love them or they hate them. But if you've seen these in the store, they're a plant-powered protein. They come in kind of like a carton. You get 30 grams of protein in one, and they're shelf stable, so you don't have to refrigerate them. I recommend you do. I think they taste better that way. I love vanilla. They make a chocolate one. They make a few different flavors, and that's the Owen brand, and that's a better quality protein shake. OWYN. And again, it's plant friendly, so if you have like a dairy allergy or something like that, and I believe it's soy free too, so because I do know some people have a soy allergy. But that's another good one as well. Orgain is another protein you can find over the counter in the store. That's a brand that I like as far as like quick access goes, if you can't like order a really good clean one from like a company that specializes in that. And collagen is also a great way. If you find you're a little short on protein, I think, you know, Dr. Jan and I can agree, collagen has been studied and it's shown to help with flexion and extension of joints. There's a lot of research that also shows it helps from a cardiovascular standpoint. It also helps with connective tissue and as far as like skin for your integumentary system. So it checks a lot of boxes, and if you get a really good quality collagen, you can get 10 to 20 grams of extra protein in your diet if you take a supplement for that as well. So that is another thing that I can recommend to clients if they are struggling to kind of get it up just to hit that top of that range with food. So try to shoot for 20 to 30 grams with each meal, because that's going to set you up for success towards that higher range. And then I call everything else is like bonus protein for the day, right? So your snacks, whether you have a protein shake, you know, whether you have a little sweet treat. I've gotten really good with mixing protein into like making mug cakes for my husband and I make muffins and add vanilla protein into them. There's so many different recipes out there on the World Wide Web today that you can really get creative and make really healthy, good treats for you guys at nighttime too, if you're a snacker like myself. Any questions on protein before I move on to fiber? Yeah, okay. So, fiber. I could talk about fiber probably for 3 hours. I'll spare you, but it is important, okay, because I don't think we talk about it enough. So first I want to tell you how much we need. So men, you guys need 35 to 38 grams of fiber a day. Women, you need 25 to 28 grams of fiber a day. Now, I often say that, and then people look at me, and they're like doing math in their head, and some people are like, I have no idea how much fiber I eat. That's your homework. You all have a note section in your smartphone, right? Starting tomorrow, I want you to tally up the barcodes of fiber on the back of foods you eat that have a nutrition label on it. And for the ones that don't, smart little computers look at you and just go, hey Siri, how much fiber is in a medium-sized apple?
One medium-sized apple contains about 4 grams of fiber.
She'll tell you.
This is from Tasty.
That's how smart she is, right? So even if you're eating something like a pear or like a cup of berries or something that you don't know that doesn't have a barcode on it, you can ask your smartphone and they'll tell you. And add it all up, because I have my clients do this and they are shocked. I have some people that call me up and I'm like day 3 and they go, oh my God, I'm only eating 7 grams of fiber a day. I had no idea, right? Because when we talk about, we just talked about protein, right? We talked about 100, 120, 150 grams. These are like big tangible numbers, right? Then we talk about fiber and we think, oh, I only need like 25 or 35 grams. Then when we think about how dispersed it is and how little we're eating of it during the day, we're really not hitting these numbers. The statistics say the average American is eating 10 to 12. I really do not think, at least based on case studies that I'm seeing with clients, that is close. Again, I'm seeing closer to 7, not 10 to 12. The other thing that's very